Have you ever felt like you spawned into the wrong character? You catch your reflection in the mirror, let out an existential sigh, and suddenly you're Googling, why does my soul feel like it's stuck in the wrong save file? That's what it feels like to be a trans man at first. It's like saying, bro, this is not my character build. And eventually, you can't ignore it anymore. So what is it really like?
The realization doesn't arrive like some poetic, cinematic moment. There's no soft lighting, no inspirational soundtrack. It shows up like a raccoon in your kitchen at 3 a.m., chaotic, unexpected, and definitely knocking things over. For a long time, you convince yourself it's just a phase, because that's easier than admitting your entire life might be built on a gender error message. You try to blend in. You smile in photos that feel like cosplay. You laugh with friends who have no idea you're busy negotiating with your own reflection every morning. You keep waiting for the feeling to fade, like bad Wi-Fi or a crush on the wrong person. But it doesn't. Instead, the questions get louder. Why does my chest feel wrong? Why do I want people to call me he? Why does being called she feel like someone stepping on my soul? And one night, maybe while brushing your teeth, maybe while doom scrolling, maybe while staring at the ceiling like a broken Roomba, you stop running. You say it. Quietly. Maybe only in your mind, but it's real. I think I'm a trans man. And for a split second, everything clicks. Not in a peaceful way, more like when your phone finally restarts after freezing all day. But there's relief. Strange, shaky, terrifying relief. Like you finally found the door to a room you've been trying to enter your entire life.
So you start testosterone, and everyone online makes it sound like magic. Like you take one shot and suddenly you wake up looking like a lumberjack who chops wood emotionally. Reality? Week 1? Nothing. Not even a suspicious chin hair. You just sit there waiting, like you ordered masculinity on Amazon and the tracking number keeps saying, delayed. Then the voice changes start. But not the cool kind, not the deep, smooth, I'm Batman kind. No, you sound like a teenager possessed by 3 different cartoon characters. Your voice cracks in the middle of sentences like you're buffering in real life. One day, you answer the phone and get called ma'am. Next day, you grunt and accidentally sound like a gremlin in puberty. It's unpredictable. It's chaos. It's oddly endearing. And the acne. Oh, the acne. Your skin becomes so oily you could fry an egg on your forehead. Your back breaks out like it's trying to tell its own dramatic story. But slowly, and I mean slowly, things shift. Your voice settles. Your shoulders broaden. You start recognizing the person in the mirror. You start feeling closer. Not fully there yet, but closer. And for the first time, you catch yourself smiling at your reflection instead of bracing for impact.
Here's the part nobody really warns you about. Being a trans man sometimes means grieving a version of yourself that never actually existed. You grieve the boy you should have gotten to be. The one who should have climbed trees without someone yelling, "Be careful, that's not ladylike." The teenager who should have gone through puberty without feeling like he was trapped inside a funhouse mirror version of himself. The young man who should have learned to take up space instead of shrinking, apologizing, negotiating for basic dignity. And that grief, it hits you at strange times. Like when a stranger calls you sir and you smile, but a tiny voice inside whispers, "Why did it take this long?" Or when you see childhood photos of yourself and feel both love and heartbreak at the same time. Love for the kid who survived it. Heartbreak for the boy who didn't get to exist yet. But here's the part that isn't tragic. Transition doesn't erase that grief, but it gives you something that's almost better. A chance to grow into the person you always were, with the tenderness of someone who had to fight for it. Your masculinity becomes something chosen, not inherited. Something crafted, not assumed. Something lived, not performed. And there's a strange, quiet beauty in that. A kind of masculinity shaped not by fear of being not enough, but by a deep understanding of what it costs to finally be yourself.
Here's the truth people rarely say out loud. Passing feels less like a victory and more like relief. A quiet, shaky exhale after years of holding your breath. When someone calls you sir, your brain lights up like a city at night. Not because you want praise, but because, for a brief moment, the world sees you the same way you've seen yourself your entire life. But the healing part, that comes much later. Because passing isn't just about how you look. It's about finally being allowed to move through the world without bracing for impact, without rehearsing explanations, without preparing to be corrected about your own existence. And then there's misgendering. That one cuts deeper than people think. It's not just a wrong word. It's a reminder of every year you spent being invisible inside your own skin. It's the echo of a world that insists it knows you better than you know yourself. Sometimes it happens on a good day, a day when you felt confident, solid, real, and suddenly a stranger's ma'am can knock the wind out of you like a punch. And you hate that it matters. You wish it didn't. But it does. And that's okay. Because healing doesn't mean you stop feeling hurt. It means the hurt stops defining you. Little by little, you learn that passing is not the whole story. That being seen correctly by others can never be as powerful as seeing yourself clearly every single morning. And one day, a day you won't even notice at first, misgendering won't feel like proof that you're failing. It'll just feel like someone else is mistaken about you. And you won't be shaken, because you'll know who you are in a way no stranger ever could.
Nobody warns you about the paper cuts. Not the big dramatic moments. The tiny, everyday slices that sting way longer than they should. Like bathrooms. You walk toward the men's room and suddenly you're doing advanced level social calculus. Do I look masked enough today? Is someone going to stare? Will I have to pretend I'm super chill even if my heart is doing parkour in my chest? And the wild part is, you're just trying to pee. A basic human function turns into a whole Olympic sport you never signed up for. Then there are the questions. The bold, unfiltered, absolutely no boundaries questions. What were you before? So, have you had the surgery? Are you sure this isn't just a phase? People you've known for 2 minutes suddenly think they're entitled to your entire medical history. Sometimes you want to answer, oh, sorry, I left my personal privacy in my other pants. But instead, you just smile because you were raised to be polite even when people are being breathtakingly rude. And then there's paperwork. Forms, IDs, government nonsense. Every line asks for a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. Every mismatched F or dead name feels like a ghost you're forced to carry even though you've already buried it. Changing your documents should feel like freedom, but sometimes it feels like a scavenger hunt designed by someone who hates joy. But here's the healing part. You start realizing that these paper cuts don't mean you're broken. They mean the world is still learning how to treat you the way you deserve. And every time you correct someone or advocate for yourself or simply walk into the bathroom you know is yours, you're not just surviving. You're reteaching the world how to see you, one tiny paper cut at a time.
Family is complicated when you're a trans man. It's not just about coming out. It's about coming home to people who still remember a version of you that you've outgrown, like a costume that stopped fitting years ago. Sometimes they try. Sometimes they don't. And the space between those two things can feel like its own kind of heartbreak. There's this strange, invisible grief that lives inside moments with your family. A grief they don't always see. Like when they accidentally say your old name and the room suddenly feels colder. Or when they show childhood photos and everyone laughs, but you're the only one who feels that sharp twist in your chest. Because you remember being there, but not being you. And then there's the boyhood grief. The mourning for a childhood you should have had but didn't. You watch other men talk about their messy, loud, uncomplicated boyhood. The bikes, the scraped knees, the freedom of being rough without apology. And something inside you aches in a way there isn't a perfect word for. You grieve the kid who never got to be called buddy, who never got taught how to shave or tie a tie or be confident in his own skin. You grieve the boy who had to grow up in disguise. But here's the part that's healing. You realize eventually that boy didn't disappear. He waited. He waited inside you through the confusion, the silence, the years. And now he finally gets to live. Every moment you laugh with friends, every time someone calls you he, every new photo where you actually recognize yourself, that boy gets a piece of the life he was always supposed to have. And maybe your family isn't perfect. Maybe they're still learning. Maybe they're slow, clumsy, inconsistent, but some of them try in their own imperfect way. And those small efforts, those tiny recognitions, those halting attempts at love, they become bridges, not to the past, but to the man you are now. Dating as a trans man is this strange mix of hope, terror, and overthinking that could win an Olympic medal if it were a sport. Because love isn't just love for you. It's risk, it's timing, it's trust. It's deciding when someone has earned the most fragile parts of your story. You overanalyze every first date like a detective. Do they see me or do they see trans? Are they curious about me or curious about my identity in a way that feels off? You shouldn't have to think this hard just to like someone, but you do. And intimacy? That's a whole different level of courage. There's the quiet fear of, what if they flinch when I take my shirt off? What if they ask something invasive? What if they pretend to understand but actually don't? Your body has been debated, questioned, analyzed by people who had no right to it. So trusting someone with it feels like handing them a glass heart and hoping they don't drop it. But here's where the healing begins. One day, someone surprises you. Someone who doesn't make your identity feel like a confession. Someone who doesn't treat you like a puzzle to solve or an educational opportunity. Someone who sees you in a way that feels so honest, you almost don't know what to do with it. They call you handsome in a tone that feels natural. They touch you in ways that don't make you tense. And they ask questions gently, not out of entitlement, but out of care. And suddenly, love stops feeling like something you have to perform around or hide behind or prepare speeches for. It just feels like love. Soft, mutual, ordinary in the best way. And you realize something quietly profound. Being a trans man doesn't make you harder to love. It just makes the right love easier to recognize. Because the right person doesn't see you as brave or inspiring. They see you as theirs. And that kind of love, the gentle, steady, unforced kind, it heals places inside you didn't even know were still hurting.
Here's the part no one tells you about. The part that sneaks up on you after all the fear, the confusion, the grief. The healing. Not the big cinematic kind where everything suddenly makes sense, but the small, steady kind that grows quietly in the background of your life. It starts with people, the right people, the ones who don't flinch at your name, don't stumble over your pronouns, don't treat your identity like breaking news, the friend who corrects someone for you before you even notice the mistake, the coworker who casually says he with zero hesitation and keeps talking like it was always obvious, the queer elder who sees you, really sees you, and nods in that way that feels like they're saying, "You're doing okay. You're one of us." Community isn't just a support system. It's a mirror.
one that reflects the version of you you've been trying so hard to become. And in that mirror, you finally look whole. Not because you pass, not because you've checked every medical box, but because you're surrounded by people who hold space for you to exist without defending your existence. Belonging doesn't arrive all at once. It trickles in as small moments of safety, laughing with people who get your jokes, swapping stories about bad binder days, celebrating someone's name change like it's a national holiday, watching a friend start testosterone and texting them, "Dude, your voice cracked. Congrats." These moments stitch something back together, something you didn't even realize had been torn. And then one day, you catch yourself smiling at a version of your reflection you used to think was impossible. You catch yourself feeling proud in a way that isn't defensive, just quietly, solidly real. You realize that despite everything, the misgenderings, the forms, the grief, the questions, the years spent trying to explain yourself to people who weren't listening, you made it. You're here. You're alive. You're becoming. And maybe the most beautiful part, you're not doing it alone. You're held by a community that sees you, names you, and loves you without hesitation. And for the first time, being a trans man doesn't feel like a battle. It feels like belonging.
If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.